Unfortunately. Okay, so I'm going to be talking today about the EPQ. For people who are new to it, I'm going to whiz through, but I'm going to give you an idea of your responsibility as a supervisor, and I'm going to talk to you about the paperwork involved. I'm going to talk about what your role is in academic terms, because I think that that's often a big problem for a lot of people. First of all, very quickly, a A-star EPQ is worth 28 UCAS points, which is more than grade A AS level. So it is a very, very significant thing. One of the things we're looking at is maybe introducing this as an alternative to a full AS level program next year, and then there'll be a lot more taught skills. Okay, also the kind of research skills they get is well beyond anything that we do at A-level, and it's absolutely wonderful. Those of you who do personal statements will know that anyone who's done an EPQ has so much more going for them than people who haven't, because they can show that level of expert knowledge, that idea of being an embryonic expert, which is what they're looking for. It's also, of course, incredibly cross-curricular, okay? Now, one thing I want to say straight away about the kind of kids that we are choosing is I was about to use the term weed out, but that's obviously a pretty ugly term. I'm going to be reviewing and making sure that we get the right kind of kids. So that's the first thing I'd say. We're looking for well-organized people with a good track record. And at any stage, you as supervisors can tell me if it's simply not working. So unlike many things in our school, this will not be us chasing kids. This is a privilege. If the kids are not coping, one warning letter from me, and then they'll be chopped from the course. That's not because we're being brutal. It's just that it is actually an independent qualification. It isn't meant to be a teacher-directed one. So for those of you who don't know, nearly everyone will do a 5,000-word paper. And this 5,000-word paper will have to be heavily informed by academic research, by databases, etc. It will have to have academic referencing. What a lot of people don't realize, though, is that the actual research log, which is a kind of diary and actually a place where the students, I've got one here for you to have a look at afterwards that you can take away if you like. It's a kind of diary where students can explore their learning and change their ideas and write about why they've changed their ideas. That is as important as the essay itself. Some students will do an artifact. That's something you can make. But it's interesting having two art teachers with us here now. This is maybe something we need to push in the school at the moment. Music's been very good. We've had some students do artifacts and actually compose music. But at the moment we're having trouble getting the students to actually believe that they can make things. And in particular for engineering, that would be an amazing thing. So that's my big goal this year, is to try and get people making some artifacts, okay? So what are the artifacts? The artifacts can be anything. They can be like a drone. They can be a painting. They can be a piece of sculpture. Very interestingly, for me as an English teacher, I'm also a writer. I was a writer previously, a failed writer. For me, I love seeing students write 5,000 words, sections of novels, short stories, etc. When you make an artifact, this is the key thing though, it has to be underpinned by research. And they have to write a paper showing how this research informed the actual design of the object. And that paper has to be at least 1,000 words. I would say more than that. I would say more like 2,000, 2,500. So for instance, one of our best students we've ever had, Roshan last year, wrote a section of stories set in India. And it was concerning the position of Indians as Christian Indians as outcasts in India. And he did absolutely hours and hours of research, so that when he actually wrote the research paper, it was so amazingly well informed that straight away he got 50 out of 50, which is how it's marked. I want to talk to you a little bit about the marking because this is really interesting. You'll see that the majority of the marks come from AO3. AO3 is where you use a range of skills to problem solve and make critical decisions, etc. And I'm going to pause on this particular assessment criteria because it's unlike anything that you will have done before. It means that your students actively should change their minds. So immediately some students are coming to me and saying, I don't know my title. That's really good. We actually want them to change direction, narrow focus, read widely, because that will then go into their production log as evidence that they reviewed, so every time this is what you can do as supervisors that's really useful. Every time they're feeling frustrated, etc., you can remind them that's actually earning them marks, especially if they're able to overcome those things. Now, some students are just amazing. Not everyone's going to be like Layla in year 13, who's doing a EPQ on the treatment of North African immigrants in Greece. She flew there. She met them. She took photographs of them. She interviewed them. So these are the kind of things that you can do. It's a very, very exciting qualification. And that's something that you as supervisors can really help the students with. You can give them ideas for primary data, for research, interviews. They could do Skype things. You know, the sky's the limit. It is a fascinating and wonderful qualification in that sense, okay? So this is something I said to the students, and I wanted you just to know about it, that you're not there to chase work, etc., okay? If you find your student is not regularly seeing you and not making the grade, just tell me. And as I said, you know, it's not your responsibility. It isn't meant to be a burden for you. This should honestly be a pleasure if it's working properly. I would have thought 2 to 3 week visits, and they may vary from 10 minutes to an hour, depending on, you know, the nature of the where they are in the project. Also, in terms of marking, etc., you do one mark, one formative mark, and then you actually assess the product, okay? At any stage as well, one thing that I think actually worries a lot of people, they feel as though you have to be the academic mentor. You actually have to be able to help the kids. I've had kids do nuclear physics, quantum physics. I've had one kid who was proving mathematics theorems. David, you would have loved it. Yeah, I'm absolutely useless at maths. I struggled to get GCSE maths. Yeah, I still think I was a very good supervisor to him because I didn't see my role as providing academic expertise. So one thing that's very interesting is that they can, in addition to you, have a technical mentor. Now, it might be the case, so for instance, if there was a particular form of music that you didn't know that much about, you might be able to direct them to an expert. That can happen. I know Jake Caswell at the moment is doing nanotechnology, and he's actually met a couple of, you know, people in universities. So that can actually happen. So if they are struggling with the academic side and they need some academic help, that doesn't necessarily have to be you at all. So the production log is something that you will have some entries in, and I'll go through those in a moment, okay? In addition to this, we want the students to keep a research diary, where I would say this should be weekly, where they record their sort of emotional state, their reading, their sense of direction, whether they're going to change direction or not. This then will go into the appendices and will then be used as evidence of AO3. Okay, and so that's why I'm so keen on them doing that, okay? The final section you'll notice here, review, is when they actually look at their project and they critically assess where they could have been better, what they did well. And that's something that also carries over to the presentation. So the EPQ will have 3 components to it. 1 will be the project, the artifact, or the 5,000 words. 2 will be the production log that they fill in with you. And the third piece will be the presentation that they give to the public. Presentation they give to the public, as you can see, is worth about 20%, okay? So year 13 students at the moment, in a year's time, will be preparing their presentations now, okay? So if I quickly just go to the timeline, you will see that we're a little bit behind at the moment, but students are proposing their titles now. When you see them, if they're absolutely hopelessly wrong, etc., don't worry, okay? There's a section of the form that you'll fill in, and it usually will be a narrowing down process. The title will be too general, and I'll give you a couple of examples of that, okay? Then they have to do a planning review, which isn't very important. This is really key, the midterm review, which we want to do for January. Once they do the midterm review, they lock down their essay title and it can't change. So in the months now that follow, encourage them to read widely. If they make mistakes, encourage that. You know, teach them about resilience, etc. It's only in January that it will become an issue and they'll need to lock down their essay title. Now, this one is the one that I don't think worked this year. I tried to get people to have some feedback by mid-June. I don't think that's realistic, to be honest with you. I think if we change that to a plan, so that you see they have a plan of structure over the summer, I think they need to write it. So it's got to be pretty much written over the summer. Most of my EPQ students in year 13 have done that, okay? Yeah.
Do they come in after their AS exams?
No, they don't. No. That's what made it very hard this year. So before that, I'd make sure that you've had a good meeting with them. I will teach them structure and how to structure the project, how to use chapters, etc. I will teach them cohesive devices and all kinds of things like that.
Isn't that a way of getting them in? We don't finish till July the 2nd. We've probably got 2 weeks.
Well, I mean, obviously, before we had them back in for the last 2 weeks of term. Last year we sent them off, study leave, that's it, goodbye. But what I did for art, I had them in for 2 workshops because they had to do a 3,000 word essay in art. So in June, once the exams were over, I actually invited students in for workshops.
Yeah, it would be absolutely fantastic, David. If that's possible, that would be absolutely ideal. Yeah.
Maybe that we team up and get them in.
If we can get them in. It was extremely hard this year with them not coming in, but obviously, I had 8 EPQ students. I kept in touch with them through email, and that kind of worked. It wasn't perfect, but 6 of them have continued and 2 of them have dropped out. Yeah, I think realistically now 50% of kids will drop out from the EPQ. All right, that's what I'm expecting we're going to shed. Yeah, and then I'm looking. I think this is about right. Let's get them to finish in November. It doesn't actually get sent off until April. But mock exams hit first day back in year 13. The idea of the EPQ is that it shouldn't interfere with their qualifications. That's something of supervisors to watch out for as well. It's just make sure. I've got Rushad at the moment, who's a wonderful kid applying to Cambridge and stuff, but he's allowing the EPQ to swallow him at the moment. That's really worrying me, because even an A-star at EPQ level isn't really an A-star A level. So just make sure that they you're looking after them. Okay, very quickly, the taught skills that I'll be doing, I'll teach them titles and planning. I'm just going to do a very short bit with you today on that, okay? Time management I'll be doing, how to use Gantt charts and stuff like that. Note-taking, I'll be teaching them in particular Cornell note-taking. Planning and argument, that's a really important one. So I'll be teaching them structure, cohesion, chapter headings, etc. I'll be teaching them advanced Google search, how to use Boolean dividers, etc. I'll teach them research techniques, including databases. I'll do another training session like this for you guys, if you like, just for 15 minutes on how to use JSTOR and EBSCO, if you like, how to use Google Scholar. Maybe some of you know this stuff already, I don't know. If you do, then you don't need to come to that, yeah? Using critical works, very interesting. How to use critical opinions, how to paraphrase, how to make sure that you're using quotation marks, how to use citations, etc. So I'll be teaching them that. I'll be teaching them, as I said, databases. I'll be teaching them editing. I'll be using a lot of exemplar material. We've had some wonderful projects last year. We had 4 50 out of 50s, yeah, including Daniel Ahmed, who's like 100 out of 50. Also, I'll be teaching them referencing and RefMe. Some of you might like to do this, especially if you're going to do an MA. This is a wonderful piece of software. It basically does all of the referencing for you. Every time you read it, it learns your citation and puts it in for you directly. It's wonderful. And obviously we'll be doing presentation skills, which is what I'm working on at the moment with year 13. So they'll be doing public speaking. I'll be doing things like audience with them, how to pause, how to use effective visuals, etc., etc. Okay, this is what you will fill in, okay? The production log, I will send you a link, but it's there on the T drive now. In the sixth form folder, it's EPQ study skills. There's a whole folder there. And it has some of my lectures in, it has the production logs, it has student exemplar material that you can look at, okay? So your first job will be to arrive at the title with your student. And that is actually quite a difficult task. It may sound very easy, but it ain't actually, and it shouldn't be. First of all, they're going to record their initial ideas, okay? You're not writing in stage 1 of the production log, you're talking. And as I said, I suspect you'll be narrowing it down. They'll come in and they'll say something like, I want to do EPQ on terrorism. And you'll say, okay, well, like all of it, everywhere, every time. And it will get down so that you're actually looking at ISIS methods on Facebook for recruiting. Is what will occur, so that it's focused enough so that they can actually do deep level research. Okay, so it'll be, I think you'll find it will be that kind of. Now, arriving at a title, the research itself has to be beyond the curriculum. So it can be something they study. For instance, They can, Rushad, who's applying to Cambridge for psychology, he is studying the paranormal. The reason why he's doing the paranormal is no longer on the psychology curriculum. So it can be in areas that you're studying, but it has to be beyond what you're studying, and it must be demonstrably so, yeah? As I said, the title really does need to be specific, and it needs to encourage depth of analysis, not broad, not wide, focused. Yeah. Yes, I'll send you a link as well to it. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, that's fine. And the title needs to be in the form of a question. This is absolutely key. The question is almost always how far or to what extent, because the EPQ must be structured around a debate or an argument. So they will need to have one point of view, a thesis, and a counter-thesis. So say, for instance, a classic one would be, criminals. Are they genetically made or are they socially constructed? So those two competing viewpoints will be examined throughout, and the conclusion will be some kind of synthesis between those two viewpoints, where the student shows that they've read widely and they've come out with a proper. So there needs to be sufficient source material. Okay, so I've had various students who wanted to do things like about Qatar and the Olympics and things like that, PE ones, but we haven't found the material, for instance, yeah? So that's something that you can guide them with. I don't expect you to go onto Google, but say, hey, show me all your sources. Obviously, it can't be crappy Google stuff as well. It has to be academic stuff. So I will be teaching them simply by using the file extension edu. That takes you to university material usually, or AC in the United States. So I'll be teaching them how to use advanced Google search and how to use Google tools, yeah? And the title must allow students to access all aspects of the assessment criteria. I will be looking at the questions with you, so don't sweat that one too much. Can I give you a little activity quickly? Could you have a little look at these essay titles here now and decide which ones you think you would pass and which ones you'd reject? So what's in it for you? Is it onerous or not? You will have to fill in various parts of the production log. I don't think that they would take you in excess of an hour, the entire thing. The marking of the EPQ will be the tough and onerous thing. As we all know, anyone here who teaches coursework like we do, Claire, for instance, we know that 5,000 words to mark is pretty tough, isn't it? So that is the onerous bit. To be honest with you, the actual assessing of it is not that hard. You just have to write some comments on them, and then I will write comments too. So I'm double marking everything that you do, okay? I thought we got it right last year. We did really well, but then Phil Oakley told me that his friend marked us, and he was very close to taking all our grades down. So by the grace of God, we got away from it, okay? So it's my job, before you mark it, to do a moderation exercise with you. As I've never been formally trained in it myself, that is quite interesting. So hopefully I could get trained and then come back and share.
Sent to AQA to be fully moderated?
Yeah, they get sent. Yeah, no, all of them will go, probably. All of them will go, yeah.
So
and
the annotations against the AO1, AO2, AO3?
Absolutely, absolutely. And the annotations extend from the 5,000 words into the production log, so that when you're looking at AO3 and AO5, okay, that's the develop and realize and review, you might cross-reference as well. You might say, fantastic research here, as evidenced in production log CF, page 16. Okay.
So this double counting is kind of okay if it takes a couple of boxes.
Without doubt, without doubt. And you can make references to appendices and all kinds of things like that. You know what I mean? The idea is we show them in their best light.
Can they gain marks? Obviously, they're doing a practical outcome and they're doing, say, 2,000 words to support that.
Yeah.
Can part of the supportive work also be things like sketches, drawings,
very much so,
compositions, and musical drafts?
Very much so. So say Daniel Ahmed did a drone that delivered aid to certain parts of Syria where aid workers were being killed. He actually did all the drawings and blueprints, he did the mathematics, he did the engineering, he worked out what the payload of it could be, etc. He did the hardcore maths. That's how you get into Jesus College, Cambridge.
And that would be part of the appendices as well?
Very much so. I'll show you his later. It's ridiculously big. It's basically like this. Yeah. Okay.
What sort of if you're doing the practical option as opposed to the 5,000 words, what sort of question?
It's not a question. What happens then is that if you were making, say, an art piece, let's imagine that you'd have to do something like, let's imagine you're doing a statue and you wanted it to show, say, a West African influence. You would then in your writing say, look at the way I've shaped these features, etc. This is reminiscent of Nigerian sculptures of this, that's right. So you'd be writing all the time and showing that you'd made these references and you'd done research. Yeah?
And they can use I, or do they have to remove the I? Like
I believe in sparing use of I. My ex-boss, Louise, who's still my boss in a kind of way, hates the I, okay? But she's not marking it, I am, so I don't mind the use of the I sometimes. If you're writing a story and you're saying, look at this, I try to make my story seem like Mark Haddon. I don't know if you guys know the Curious Incident of the Dark, okay? So that was my boy last year, Ben. He did a section from that story, another section. And so I don't see how else you can do that other than by using personal pronouns. Haddon does this, I do this, okay? I'm hoping to show that I've learned his technique, etc., etc. So sometimes the I is necessary, I think anyway, yeah, okay? Candidate proposal be the first piece of actual writing that you do. Now, I can send you this document in Word form and you can type it. I don't like handwriting because I have terrible handwriting, okay? But it is a tricky document, so let me know if it's not working very well, and I'll ask Greg Anderson, who's fantastic at tech, to help that out, okay? Basically, your first job will be this, okay? You will talk to the candidate and then you will put in some of your comments, okay? So we've practiced some of those titles, haven't we? And you now will find, hopefully they'll come in. Sometimes they're bloody maddening and they've got like an excellent question straight away and you think, damn, what do I say? You know what I mean? Then don't feel too bad about it, Then you just say, basically, I endorse this candidate has chosen a rounded question and there's research available and I think it will work well. So I would not stress too much about that. And then the third piece of paperwork is for me. And usually, almost always, I'm going to endorse you. If you guys will know better than I will whether it's going to work or not, okay? Don't worry, we're coming to the end. I will send this to you. I've just chosen a few little nice comments by students. You see the I has been used there a lot, Claire, in the production log. This is Roshan's one to do with creative writing. And this one here is one that was to do, this is another school. I put a link in here. Beth Dobbin, I think she was a Gerardon girl, David. David and I used to work together, and so did Claire. 3 Gerardon people here. How amazing, huh? And then later on this is the other piece of paperwork that you will fill in. You will do a record of the kids' presentation. And the presentation in desk is a big deal. We invite members of the public and everything, get some nice food in, you know what I mean, bribe the kids to come in, bribe and coerce and threaten and stuff. We should be able to get, I'm hoping for 200 people in with cameras, and we make it a big thing and put some signs outside. And some of the talks are amazing. So what I'll do is I will carefully choose the best speakers to be in the center of the new sixth form. Like someone like Roshan, who went wrong last year because he spoke for an hour though. He just went crazy. It's meant to be 20 minutes, by the way. So
you go over that 20 minutes because you don't get.
You can go over 20 minutes, but it was selfish in his case. We all had to wait behind for ages. Just keep a record of this, yeah? Get your kids on JSTOR straight away, yeah? The username is desk, password's library. Put it in your computers as well. I'm negotiating EBSCO at the moment, which is another database, and I'll keep you guys informed about this. But JSTOR is absolutely excellent. So say I was to put in Charles Dickens, there will be 55,000 results that come. So then you put Charles Dickens and. So
I think there's a how to use JSTOR.
There is a video.
Somewhere,
there's a video, and I'll send that out as well. So all the time, get the kids though. Don't say, "Hey, I'll show you how to do this." Say, "Here's the link. Get on it." You know what I mean? JSTOR is a massive database, the world's biggest database. So, what's your interest in music, for instance? Give me anyone.
20th century English song.
Put it in tonight and see what comes up. I think you'll find there'll be quite a lot, yeah? So basically, a lot of academics are protecting their work. They're not putting it on Google. And this is a way of paying them, for their publications. So you're going to get access to live academic research.
And we need to have a login as well as the students.
You just use this one. This is your one. And I'll send you one for EBSCO as well. So, for instance, I don't know if you're teaching A-level sports science or anything like that at the moment, are you?
I'm teaching BTEC BTEC.
You're teaching the BTEC. Even BTEC kids, I don't see why they shouldn't be using this. You know, this is so much better than going on Google. It really is. Much more focused, high quality stuff. We all know you get a lot of crap on Google quite often. This really is filtered out. So just deadlines that you know about. Okay, the deadline entry is the 21st of February for the kids to absolutely 100% decide that they're going to do it and pay for it. Okay, much earlier than that, you will decide whether they continue or not. Our deadline that I'm hoping will be November 30th of November 2018. Okay, so we want everything in there, all marks, everything done by that, so it doesn't interfere with their mock exams. Okay, thank you for listening.